Hello, Bigfoot enthusiast. Scott here from Squatch America.
Hey, and Hannah, domestic goddess, chief cook, and donkey mama in the paddy wagon today. A very hot paddy wagon. We've gone from complaining about how freaking cold it is to it's too hot.
Yeah,
That took a minute.
we did. Yeah,
Anyway,
that's from like yesterday to today.
yes, yeah, right. Winter, summer, boom, overnight.
So,
So we are not live tonight, which is not normal. We've got great signal, we've got great data reception, all those things, but we are not live because we've got some awesome guests for you, and so they had to pre-record. So
so,
this is pre-recorded.
so this is pre-recorded. So let's get into this. Okay, well, today we've got a couple special guests. We're going to be talking about the old and new London Trackway. So today we have with us Tobe Johnson from the Owl Moon Lab project and Cliff Barackman from the North American Bigfoot Center. Hi guys, how you doing?
Good enough.
Good enough. All right. So, as all our listeners know, we have recently found another set of tracks near Cottage Grove Reservoir. So we took them to Cliff, and if you've seen our last episode, it was our discussion with Cliff and what he found back then. And we Tobe actually found some footprints there the same time Cliff did, and we want to talk about what we think these are. So Tobe, can you tell us about your experience?
Well, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
First, hello, Cliff. Hello, Scott. Hannah, thanks for doing it. Thanks for making time to talk about cool Bigfoot stuff. I reached out to Cliff in 2012 about what I thought were authentic tracks down in the London Trackway. And here we are, damn near 11 years later, and there's still a bit of a mystery. You can get into the provenance of the trackway as far as who found them first and how they got to me, but it's a little bit boring. But when it comes to the mystery part of it, I feel like there's a little bit less of a mystery now after just seeing the tracks and hearing what Cliff said. There's an issue going on with these tracks as far as the look and feel of them. And this cowboy who reported them, this mysterious dog walking cowboy. You know what I mean? So that part's a little bit tough to swallow, the fact that this guy is constantly finding the same individual leaving tracks. It's not as though they're a whole new set of Bigfoot tracks. So that's what I wanted to get on here and talk about and see what information comes forward as far as, what we can do as Bigfooters, because no matter what, they were able to hoax a whole bunch of people interested in the subject matter. So therefore, I think if these are hoaxed, they're hoaxed by an experiencer. They're hoaxed by somebody that knows that there's a real dollar bill. This may be a counterfeit dollar bill, but someone knows Bigfoot evidence, because there's still some stuff that bothers me about these being a hoax as far as the lake bed trackway. But doesn't mean it's not impossible. It just means that now I have to go down there and find a way to hook these tracks and come back with my own opinion about this. And that's something I've never done. And that's, the stigma of wearing stompers or going down, being filmed. I heard Cliff mention that. That's the last thing any of us want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
The real dollar bill, we all know, exists. It absolutely exists in the Cottage Grove area. But for that pinky toe, and Scott, you just showed me the fresh tracks, and we can go back to the prints. Exactly like the same tracks that we found, to the degree where they should almost have a trademark stamp on them. And I that goes counter narrative to what we just wrote about with Daniel Perez and the Bigfoot Times. But because of that, I feel like the onus is on us to prove that these are Bigfoot tracks by going down and duplicating those tracks on our own. So unless somebody sees this footage here and wants to come forward, it's still a mystery until I go down there myself. Because, you know, they were 45 inches apart, thereabouts, approximately, right, Cliff, on the lake bed for over 60 yards?
Yeah, they varied a bit, but if I remember correctly, 42 to 48 inches or something, somewhere in there, I think.
Yeah. You know, the thing is that it's such an exciting thing to think that you wandered upon Sasquatch evidence.
Oop.
And we have to pull back and say, okay, even if it takes 10 to 12 years to debunk something, sometimes it takes that long. Sometimes it's going to take longer. And so, yeah, I think this warrants some deeper, fun, you know, investigation on my part, at least, to go look at these tracks again.
Yeah. So what we're thinking about doing is I've got a couple months. We're actually headed back to the Blue Mountains, and we're going to spend the next couple months in the Blue Mountains, but and doing some Bigfoot stuff. But
We're coming back.
we're coming back that way. And after talking with Cliff the other day, and if you're open about it, I think I'm going to be a little bit open about it. I'm going to build some stompers in the next couple months. But there's a way of doing it, is actually taking these casts that I have and duplicate them into stompers to see if I can make the same tracks. And then in August, we've got a couple weeks. We're going to be able to hang out in Cottage Grove and try it out. You know, I'm 6'3", 200 pounds. I meant. So.
Scott, the thing about that lake bed, and Cliff, maybe you can attest to this too, is that, you know, the Army Corps of Engineers is very strict about what goes on in that lake bed. There's all sorts of little, I guess, there's a black book supposedly that exists at the Army Corps of Engineers of people that have done wrong on that lake bed, including in that is throwing plaster in the lake bed, according to the Army Corps of Engineers guys that have talked to me. You're not supposed to take rocks from the lake bed. Of course, if you cast something, you're going to take rocks. These are all things that I'd love to find out. You know, what's possible. Of course, the Army Corps of Engineers told me privately that they have had Sasquatch experiences on or around the lake, but that doesn't mean that these tracks are left by Bigfoot. I think, you know, we got to find out who this cowboy is, this dog walker guy, and see what he knows about Bigfoot. Not so much what he knows about these footprints. I'm curious what this guy knows about Sasquatch and why he's the dude, you know, finding these London tracks.
Well, wasn't the guy's name who told you Rex? Am I remembering correctly?
The guy that told me what?
The guy that told you about the tracks. Wasn't his name Rex?
Oh, Max.
Max.
Yeah.
You know, it might behoove you maybe to get some of these pictures that Scott and Hannah have taken of some of those people up there and say, do any of these dudes look familiar, or the gals look familiar? Like, are any of these guys the dog walker?
That's what's so encouraging about us all talking about this, is because, you know, Max knows something we don't know. I know something that Scott and Hannah didn't know about the London store, and somebody bragging, this landscaper. I gave you a name. I think I know where the guy lives. So there's been people talking about hoaxing these tracks for 11 years, 2 or 3 of them, and nobody's come forward yet. And maybe it's just a big game because it's February. There's an article written. You know, who knows? Maybe they leave tracks all the time and don't report half of them. I don't know if this is a Bigfoot leaving those tracks. Cliff, you're 100% certain, right, that it's not a Bigfoot?
Yeah, I'm confident it is not a Sasquatch. No, those were made by a stiff prosthetic foot of some sort. Yeah.
So given that fact, Cliff, you know, on the mid-tarsal area there that Scott cast in the gravel there, is that present? Is that something also that you saw that was present in the gravel tracks, especially on cast number 3?
1, 2, 3 in the gravel tracks.
Yeah.
Well, see, now I have a copy of all these prints, and you would be hard pressed to call that a mid-tarsal pressure ridge, because they are extraordinarily flat. There's almost no contour to these whatsoever, but it could be explained by just pushing off, because remember, humans, when they do push off, usually the stomper would tilt into the ground, but in this case I believe it's too hard packed to really do that effectively. There would be some depth there, but looking at all three of these tracks, there's nothing that I would call a tarsal pressure ridge of any sort in any of them.
Looking at track number 3, you were on the ground there. Do you see what I mean as far as there being what looks like flexibility and
Right here.
Yeah, I do. But like here, I have the cast right here. Let me bring us up so you can see this better. But here's the cast, but there is that dip right here in the center. But typically, like if you go off like the Patterson cast, the heel, this is the heel, and it's actually deeper than the forefoot. And that's usually not the case. It's usually deeper in the front, and the toes are even deeper because that's the last part that comes off the ground with the weight. But this one, the heel is actually deeper than the front.
And that would be explained by the running motion and when you jump and land with the heel, and that would probably. Yeah.
Is there good evidence of someone using a rigid stomper and a gravel road to leave an impression with toes?
I don't know.
Looking back, is there somebody we can look to and say, well, they did it. This is how you leave gravel tracks.
Yeah.
Depends on the size of the gravel and stuff. I can't think off the top of my head of gravel tracks with showing good toes. I could think of a handprint like that, but not a footprint. But I'm sure it happens. Depends on the size of the gravel, because just like anything else, you have to have gravel smaller than the toes themselves. And most gravel roads have to.
That'd be good for all of us to do on camp. How easy it is to duplicate what you saw. I mean, that's the last thing that I would suspect is easy to do compared to leaving them in the mud. But the mystery of these tracks, I still go back, and Cliff, I want to hear your explanation for this too, because it still is a fly in the ointment for me. In the London tracks opened up for about 45 inches from heel to toe, and I talk about that in the Bigfoot Times, is this 90-degree pivot without sliding.
There was yeah. Not like the pirouette sliding, but there was a big mark in the mud at that point, a very deep pivot where it did turn left to the 90-degree mark. I wish I had my files with me. I just came to work with my phone files.
But does that still bother you, Cliff, as far as someone being able to run like a?
I'm impressed with them. It doesn't bother me, but I'm impressed with them.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to go down in that mucky lake bed, so they spun around and they slipped, they spun around, they kept on going, because essentially stompers in that sort of substrate at some occasions, and there's plenty of examples of that in the track set, they're almost acting like sheep at some point. And that's
well, I think it's more complex. We're oversimplifying this here. So for the listeners, just imagine running in stompers at a 45-inch inline step, which if you're going to run, you're going to be running more in line. And then suddenly, as you're running in the mud without a significant slide, you spin on the ball of your foot, and then, like you're in the military, do a 90-degree turn, and then open up your sprint to over 45 inches as you're leaving the lake bed. That's what really bothers me about it being a run. I think if somebody hoaxed this, and I told this to Joe Bielart and Daniel Perez, I think somebody stamped these tracks. I don't think they ran to do it because of that 90th step. There would have been an indication of them spinning out as they did that 90-degree turn, and it was pretty much 90 degrees. I remember Chris Menier looking at that with me going, impossible. And, as far as that was the part that really sold me, but there were other parts of it too, including the, after we cast it, was that fifth met at that pinky toe. It has that tuberosity bone sticking out of the side there. So somebody went through the wherewithal to carve that bone to where that pinky splayed out. Does that bother you at all, Cliff? I mean, how does that?
I don't know what you mean. I'm afraid I don't know what you mean by the tuberosity bone. I mean, those are phalanges right there. a lot of Sasquatch prints do have an abducted fifth digit, particularly in young ones, but not consistently like that. Usually, if you get a 5 or 6 in a row or something, then 1 or 2 of the prints will have some sort of abduction to the fifth digit there. So I'm not sure about the bone part of it, but I do know that fifth digit on the London tracks was consistent
Right.
when it showed up. It didn't always show up. I happen to have I think I have a London right over here that it doesn't show up on. Hold on a second.
All right, folks, we're going to jump in and do a commercial break really quick.
Now, this is how we pay our bills. So please respond with that classic American impulsivity buying, okay?
There you go.
As we travel and search for Bigfoot, we use a lot of equipment that uses the internet to operate. Also, in our town hall meetings and live streams, we need a reliable connection. We use Nomad Internet. There's a link and discount code below, so join us and have internet access on the go.
Yeah, so do the link thing and get you some internet that you can take into the woods with you.
Internet access on the go. Who else noticed that it rhymed?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of a sloppy one, but these see the sloppy ones teach us more, which is why I cast everything and not just the good-looking ones. So this is one of the original London tracks. This is track number 18. Has it on the back. I have photographs of all the footprints in the ground before and after casting. All the kind of stuff. And let's see. There's the fifth. Well, there's kind of a fifth digit in here. 1, 2.
Put it on camera more, Cliff. Again.
Yeah, but the thing about all of them is this right here.
Right.
That right there is not the signature of a Sasquatch print, because Sasquatches, having flexibility in the mid part of their foot, push off in the entire ball of the foot.
Yeah.
What this is a flat prosthetic tilting into the substrate while it's moving forward. You have to remember that as well. These are dynamic signatures, not a stomp. I don't think these were stomped. I think these were a dynamic signature of somebody wearing stompers running across the bed. When it comes down, it hits, it slaps down most likely, because I've done experiments with fake feet. And I should have done it years ago, and I never did. But as I lamented, I believe on a previous video with, I never watched the video with Scott and whatever. but I know I lamented it because it's one of my great regrets that I didn't do it much earlier. But they come down, they slap down, and then as the weight of the track maker on top leans forward and then pushes off, it makes a curvature and then goes a little bit deeper, and that is that right there. That is signature mark right there, and that is not what a Sasquatch does. I have so many examples in my data set, and the only things that do this are fake prints. And I've got an LB track.
He's got what?
LB Trackway was also same years as the London stuff, and this is a lesser example of it, and the stomper for this is much better than the stomper for the London. Because oh my, they were out of their way to try to fake this. But as you can see right there, I think that's a pretty good angle on that. Again, the stomper comes down and pushes forward, and that's what that is right there. You can see the same shape from a different stomper, leaving the same kind of mark. Right. That's my thought on that.
Yeah, my point about that fifth pinky toe.
I don't know what. Like,
What's going on with the sound?
There we go. I think so. If somebody made a rigid stomper, I think they went through a lot of trouble. It wasn't a simple.
Oh, they did. They did.
It certainly wasn't diving flippers, which was one of the more ridiculous things.
No.
Heard somebody went down there and carved diving flippers. But since somebody said it, it should be a part of the things that we go down there and reproduce. You know, come as close as you can to the most ridiculous thing. I think there was a lot more work put into the 2012 one, if it was hoax, than what Scott and Hannah found, just based upon the step length and where it ended up. I mean, there was over was there over like 300 pounds of plaster that was thrown on the lake bed over 3 or 4
Over,
days?
no, there were over 2. I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's just from me though. I don't know what you guys did. So you're probably doing 50-pound bags yourself. So.
right. Yeah. I don't know. It's to be continued in my book until February timeframe. And, you know, between now and then, Scott, Hannah, you're going to turn up what you need to turn up. There's some loose ends to this story for sure. I think there's still some genuine mysteries on my end, but, you know, Cliff has the largest database compared to Jeff, right? I mean, you're comparing it to a lot of evidence compared to what I'm comparing it to. So, you know, I have to look at that and say, well, that's a fact. That's true. But since we know without a doubt, that there's Bigfoot in Cottage Grove, to me, it's just, it seems like more of an open mystery because of the experiences I've had.
Yeah, and you know, you're absolutely right that whoever made those stompers, assuming that's what they were, which I'm convinced of at least, whoever made them, you know, did their homework. They took a couple real looking real Sasquatch prints probably, and made their model after that. I think it's as simple as that. And they went out and had a little bit of fun, or extra their mental illness, or whatever the case may be. You know, I'm personally inclined to think that unless you have a pretty stupid sense of humor, or you're a psychopath, you're probably mentally ill if you're out there faking Bigfoot prints. Because like, what kind of person does that? You know, I mean, it's just the same kind of person that would dress up as a deer and run across the road, and because deer are real animals, you know, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So
what's next for Scott and Hannah? I mean, obviously you want to go back and dig up things. I mean, you know, you're going to do it for the fun of it. You're probably going to end up with some interesting stories from around that area, because it doesn't take long to get Bigfoot stories in Cottage Grove. They're going to point you in some interesting areas. And I just encourage you to keep the information close to the vest as possible, because I, you know, still go back to that area south of Cottage Grove Lake and have success. But, you know, I'd be curious to see what else you drum up. If you can find somebody that has hoaxed this, you know, they don't have to go on the record about it. All they have to do is talk to you about the process and why. I'm curious about, you know, after all these years, why they would still be doing it.
yeah, and if you find anybody, I want the stompers for the museum. They'd be so cool to have in here. Gosh, I'd love to have those. I mean, I was on Finding Bigfoot saying these things are real because I didn't figure it out in time, you know. If anybody has egg on their face, it's me. But also, I want to point out that I think that the correct way to do this is trying to find if they could have been faked. Like, I'm confident they're faked. I wouldn't approach this trying to see if they're real. That's not good science. Science is really about proving yourselves wrong whenever possible. And if you can't prove yourself wrong, you keep trying. And if you do that for a long time, then maybe you're right, but you never stop trying to prove yourself wrong. That's one of the, luckily for me, because if I'm not doing something wrong, I'm probably asleep. You know, like I make so many mistakes throughout my day and whatnot. And so for me, being like a citizen scientist, I'm in the right field because I'm wrong a lot. And that means I get a chance to learn a lot. So.
You know, Scott and Hannah, if these were faked, here's the kind of madman or mad woman this is doing this. The tracks were reported, 3 tracks off of Williams Creek Road, I believe it was. And 3 pictures were taken and given. I believe Max Roy took one of those pictures that I saw. However, we found subtle tracks that were coming in from the Weyerhaeuser Road through the Poison Oak. And then if Joe Beelart's right, this person or whatever went across the road and possibly over a fence through somebody's house and left tracks coming across the fence, according to Autumn Williams, another guy named Todd, and possibly Joe Beelart and Tom Powell. Now, I don't have any confirmation of that, but what happened in the lake bed was never reported. And you had to go at least a solid 60 yards away from these reported tracks to a subtle impression that started in the ferns. And then it spread out and did this wide slope and then went out to the lake bed and had these impressive trackway. You've seen it in the video, but those tracks were never reported. It was only because of Todd Bailey, being unemployed at the time, having the wherewithal to go down and find that subtle trackway as, you know, an experienced hunter and tracker himself. And so that's what I want people to understand, is that it wasn't as though someone reported a trackway and said, these massive tracks out in the lake bed. It's not the case. And it certainly wasn't ever reported to Army Corps engineers. It was reported to another guy passing on the sidewalk who saw a dog walker in a cowboy hat say this. So I think it's way more interesting than people know. Certainly there are a lot of people involved with that were, on the side that these were legit. And it led to a larger conversation to where I'm absolutely sure that Sasquatch walks out on that lake bed and all over Cottage Grove. So if these were hoaxed by somebody, it was a very subtle game that they played. It wasn't an obvious, just like, well, here's the tracks, here's the GPS, and here's where track number. No, that's not the case. And you think that, I mean, that's the truth. That really is the full case of the London tracks. It wasn't reported what we found, what we recorded, what Finding Bigfoot did. That was not reported at all.
Yeah, so it was initial 2 or 3 or 4, however many that were up on top that came to your attention, I believe. And then I know that you went down there the next day to check it out. I think Todd was with you, if I remember right. It's a long time ago from my memory. And then you saw him in the morning light, essentially, is what I took away from it.
Yeah. Well, here's how crazy it was. Is I was a hospice nurse at the time, and I had a dying patient, and I had to bring that patient to a doctor's appointment. And then we took a little road trip south to Cottage Grove Lake, where I found Todd down there casting tracks as I have this patient with me. And so we headed back to Eugene. I dropped the patient off and came down, and Cliff showed up. Everything that could go wrong kind of went wrong at first, but we're all blown away by the subtleties of what we found to become this giant impression that was the London tracks. And the London tracks got their name from Tom Powell, who said it should never be named after the track finder, should be named after a community. And I thought that was such a cool thing. There's so many takeaways. I mean, when Cliff said, when in doubt, cast it, I took that away. Watching Chris Manier, watching all these guys, and same with you and Hannah, Scott, driving down there. I mean, that's what you have to do in order to the Bigfoot. You got to go. You just have to go find out and do it. And I still get goosebumps thinking about all of the hard work that went into, casting this track. Be it real or not, there was a lot of interesting data to pull back, and, friendships that some of them I've lost now, but a lot of them just like, well, I would have never met this property owner down in Cottage Grove had that London track not happen. So I think the Army Corps engineers too knows a lot more than they're saying, because they came to me at the Bohemia Mining Festival and said as much. Maybe it's because the guy that was talking to me had just retired, but there's definitely some loose lips. So I encourage you to go find those loose lips.
Well, and also I want to point out that even if these are, as I suspect, hoaxed, all hoaxes should be documented. Every single one, because what we've been seeing is like, I got a report, I got a footprint photograph from October of 2011, and then I believe it's the same foot that made the February 2012 stuff, just a few months earlier in this Cottage Grove area. They never wrote me back. I wrote them for more information, and it was a dead end. But they sent me a picture, and I believe it's the same stomper that made that actually. And also here it is again, 2023. They show up again. So that's why. All of us, if we take ourselves at all seriously about being a Bigfoot researcher, whatever you see in the ground, you got to take with you. You got to pull that, and because you never know when it's going to resurface again. And whether it's whether you're tracking an individual Sasquatch, like a real animal over time and trying to figure out its habits, or if you're tracking a hoaxer over time, we need to know that stuff. So there is no mistake to be made when you're trying to cast a footprint in the ground, whether it's fake or not. And another great example is the LB tracks. Very likely showed up again 6 months or a year after they were made at a base of a hang gliding area or something like that, from what I understand. So yeah, again, we're tracking not only the animals, we're tracking the hoaxers as well.
Absolutely. We had to drive up from Medford, and when we got there, it was raining, and then it started snowing sideways, and we didn't get home till like 2:00 in the morning.
I was really grumpy after that.
Yeah, but after casting them, but I agree. I mean, I have there's like one print in my life that I saw that I didn't cast, and I'm like, I still kick myself for that. You know?
Because it was gone when we went back.
Yeah.
And I take away that has really driven it home for me is that, yeah, like I'm a little excessive in a lot of ways. You know, as far as the number of tracks I walked away with, clearly, like I did 72 that night, 64, I believe, in a row. That's excessive. But I want to point out, if I had gone there and done what most Bigfoot folks do, and which is, I understand it, I was there at one point in my career as well. Most people would look for the best tracks that look the most castable and then walk away with just those. If I had walked away with 2 or 3 or even 5 casts from the London stuff, I may still think they're real. But the fact that I walked away with so many gave me such a variety of different prints made by the same foot to look at, and I could weigh them and then look at them in context of one another. 1 or 2 stomps are really, really good, but I have so many of these things that it's only that allowed me to come to the conclusion with some assurity of myself. I'm sure they're fake, but I don't want to, you know, I've been wrong before with the London tracks, right? So I've been wrong before. The older I get, the less sure I become of anything. But I'm confident that these are faked, and if I wouldn't have come away with that conclusion unless I had done so many. I probably could have got away with 25 or 30 of them, but I went 64 or 72 or something. So, but take as many as you can away from the area is a big lesson from this.
Okay, so in case you're wondering, if you're new with us, welcome, by the way, to Squatch America. We would love to have you as a member of, as a citizen of Squatch America. It's really super easy to become a member of Squatch America. You click join. You do click like, subscribe. If you have not clicked the like button, please like this video, share this video into the YouTube universe and all over your social media until your friends are just sick of your Bigfoot nonsense. But to become a Squatch American, click the join button on this show and you will join for a very modest YouTube fee that they take a great big cut of, but whatever. You can become a Squatch American. You can also go to patreon.com/SquatchAmerica and join one of our membership tiers for extra value added content, behind the scenes looks into our lives. And please go to SquatchAmerica.com and sign up for our weekly newsletter. And so now all you Squatch Americans, you want to know where we're going to be coming. Well, here is our schedule for the next few months. As you're watching this, we are sitting in Baker City, Oregon. We will be in Eastern Oregon for the next 6 weeks because coming up on June 10th is the Seeking Bigfoot train ride, leaving from the Elgin, Oregon Historic Train Depot. You can follow the Grand Ronde and Wallowa rivers as they tumble their courses and join together at Rondawa. Our 2 rivers ride is our standard trip, and the scenery is fantastic. But this trip promises more excitement and fun because Sasquatch has been reported in the area. Are you a naysayer or a believer? Bigfoot experts. Hi, did they just make that up? Bigfoot experts Scott and Hannah Violet ride along to help sway your opinion. It does include a delicious boxed lunch, so it is well worth your tickets. It's a great family-friendly ride, a really wonderfully relaxing way to spend the day. Lots of fun, so make sure you catch us on the Seeking Bigfoot train on June 10th. Then after that, we will be hightailing it up to Medellin Falls, Washington for the Medellin Falls Bigfoot Festival, June 17th and 18th, where we will be speaking alongside Mel Scahan. Scahan. Well, I don't know. Mel, you're going to have to correct us on that one way or the other. And a whole host of other people, including another guy that was part of the London, Tom Sood. Yep. So anyway, and the guy from Breaking Bad, Jesus, I can't read his name. I've never seen that. I should watch that before we go. Yeah. And a few other speakers. So join us in Medellin Falls, June 17th and 18th. And then after that, we will be hightailing it south to Cave Junction, Oregon for the Born Free, Still Free Bigfoot Festival. This is a one-day event. Perfect for you to bring all the kids to. There will be all sorts of fun and games and frolicking. And then after the family-friendly part, we will have a town hall meeting with adult beverages involved. So,
And then, oh my gosh, you know what? 2 months ago, we had nothing on our summer
I
schedule.
know.
2 months or after that, on July 21st in Glide, Oregon, we will be joining Dr. Jeff Meldrum at the Glide Sasquatch Festival, the Bigfoot Expert Experience. So tickets are now available. You want to go look that up. Glide Sasquatch Festival. Get your tickets now. This includes dinner, meet and greets, and pointed Bigfoot discussions, much like the ones we are having today.
Yep.
What's after that? I've completely lost track. Oh, yes. Oh, and you know what? We have just started planning this. It's going to be awesome. It was awesome last time. It's going to be awesome this time. The Blue Mountain Bigfoot Festival, August 12th in Baker City, Oregon. We'll have guest speakers. And yes, we do know who the guest speakers are going to be. We have confirmed that, but it's still a secret. Guest speakers, games, vendors, music, contests, Bigfoot Museum, and more. I believe there will be a Squatch Trot again this year, but someone else is organizing it. And maybe that Bigfoot beauty contest.
There we go. I'm shooting for that.
All right.
And our Bigfooting friend Kip Morrow wants us to do a prom.
Yes, Bigfoot prom.
So we'll look into that.
I think a Bigfoot prom, he mentioned tuxedos. I think we need to clarify tuxedo t-shirts.
Yeah.
Tuxedo t-shirts. Yes,
that'll
that
work.
would be great. So,
all right. So now back to our discussion. We're planning to doing some more research on this, of course. And like I said, when we get back there in August, was it? Yeah.
July,
August. We'll keep you guys in the loop and let you know when we're going to be down there. Maybe we can meet up or something. I don't know, but we'll keep this in the loop. And by the way, I have a very blurry photo because it was a long ways away, but when we were casting this and we were filming us casting this, there was a guy with a cowboy hat walking on the dam above us with a dog watching us cast these prints.
That dog,
okay, I will check on that.
That reported it to Rex, or the guy the cowboy hat that eventually led the information to Toby, who was kind enough to share it with me, had a blue heeler.
Okay.
Named Simca. We've been doing some research ourselves. So.
That's what it says right there. Named Simca. I underlined it.
Thank you guys so much for getting on. Any last words?
No, look forward to seeing you. Toby up at Forks in a few weeks, I guess.
Oh yeah, well let's make a soft plug here, Cliff.
Yep.
Little ways away off of I-5. I understand Forks is a little bit of drive for people out of Portland in particular, but I encourage you to get up there because there's going to be some first, and it's right across from this, epic Sasquatch the Legend gift store. Cliff's been up that way. Doug Hychek is going to be speaking along with Cliff. And Mark Marcel and Marcia K. Moore just signed on. And this is Marcia's first Bigfoot talk, as someone who typically studies the elongated heads and has done a lot of work with Brian Forrester, who you've maybe seen or maybe not seen on YouTube, or Ancient Aliens. She's leaning that the elongated skull people may have some cross-pollination with the Sasquatch conundrum. So she's going to be up that way, including myself, and you can come and check out this premiere of Flash of Beauty Part 2. It's going to be premiering Friday and possibly Saturday, and we're going to have a debate between the flesh and blood and the woo, between two hard-nosed researchers, Rich Germeau and Thomas Seawood. So there's going to be a lot of fireworks. Cliff's probably got a great presentation on his way. I'll be hosting it along with newbie Nancy Fry. It should be a lot of fun. You can get your tickets now at SasquatchTheLegend.com. You can get a 1-day pass or a 3-day pass. So head out to Forks, put a fork in it. Memorial. All right. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Hannah. Thanks, Cliff.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, guys.
What do you guys think? You've now watched multiple, we've had multiple videos, live and pre-recorded, on this new London Trackway, on the old London Trackway. You've now heard from two of the key researchers from the OG
the OG Trackway. What do you think? Throw it in the comments. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you think. Is it possible to run and slide and pivot? And is it, can you really fake a mid-tarsal break? I mean, this is some serious science. These discussions are serious science. So join the discussion. Throw your piece of the puzzle into the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe while you're doing that.
So, as always,
our job is to investigate the unexplained,
not to explain the uninvestigated.
And so until next week, thanks so much for watching. You keep watching, and
we'll keep squatching. Go out and find Bigfoot.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, we need to do the ND thing.